All right, welcome to the next class. I'm excited that you now have your whys behind you, your 5 whys of why you're doing real estate investing. You have your SMART goal to keep you on track so you know whether you're achieving your goal, you're making progress to your goal or not. I'm going to give you one more way to make sure you stay on track. And this is my House F.I.R.E method. I've given you this book in the class, so read that, check that out. This is a supplemental sort of walkthrough of the book here for you to understand why this is important. You're going to have analysis paralysis that first time or freeze. So here's another way to take that emotion out of real estate investing. The number one problem I see that people making their first couple investments is they buy a property they want to live in themselves. Now, I have a phrase that says, I like my houses ugly in the street and sexy in the spreadsheet. Okay. You want to do the same because that's where the real money is. Okay. If you buy a house that you want to live in, you're making an emotional decision. It's not a spreadsheet decision. And that's okay. It's sort of like house shopping as a primary. You're going to give preferences and sort of bonus points to length of commute, the school district, how walkable it is, is it close to a park or good restaurants and bars. You're going to pay a premium for that, right? Well, that's not going to make a lot of rental income. That you're paying premium for those lifestyle choices, but an ugly house in the middle of nowhere, you may not want to live on it, but you can get it for a discount. And what's important is tenants, they only look at their budget. They're going to say, I've got $1,500 to spend. What's the best house closest to my work for $1,500? And they'll go look at it. Sometimes there's one, sometimes there's 10, and they're going to say, this is all I need. And that's their mindset. They're not thinking long-term. They're not thinking, does it have granite countertops? They're just thinking, I've got $1,500 to spend, and there, boom, you can buy it. And that house that you bought and rent for $1,500 probably was bypassed by a lot of people who are looking as a primary, but the gold is right there for for investors to buy it. Now, the approach that I also do is take that mindset and say, I want to give every house a job. Okay. I want this house to pay a certain bill. And that's my House F.I.R.E method, which I will walk you through right now so that you understand that maybe this approach will also make the decision making easier for you. I've never met an investor that said, man, I wish I started investing in real estate later. Like no one's ever said that, right? So you want to get started quickly and you want to give yourself a deadline. You want to stick to your deadline. Just want to give you one other way to sort of focus. And if you give a house a job, it makes it easy. Because what happens is you're going to say, man, this property cash flows me $200, but maybe I can buy something better. And then 2 months later, you find something that's cash flows $210, and you're like, good thing I waited. I wonder if I can buy something later. And then 4 months after that, you find something that's $230. Yes, I did it. And then you're like, it's after a while, it's been 3 years, and you haven't bought anything. So you want to take those properties and buy each one. And if you had it a job, it would be easy. So, I'll buy all three, right? So let's dig in and give you the background of sort of how I came up with the strategy and why it's better than a lot of other investment strategies that are not real estate related, and probably some that you're familiar with called the FIRE movement. So let's dig into that. So we need to first know that starting to house fire is not insurance fraud. Okay. So we're not telling you to burn down a house and collect insurance checks. Okay. That is not what I'm recommending. So you got to pay attention. If that's what you think it is, I can't believe you thought that about me. To be honest, but I forgive you. We're still learning. We're still meeting each other. So let's dig in so that you understand what the FIRE method is, and we'll go from there. All right. It's an acronym, just like the SMART method in last class. All right. F stands for financial, I, independence, R is retire, and E is early. I didn't come up with this. All right. And it's not the most elegant off the tongue, and no one says these words typically, but here you go. That is the FIRE movement. It's how can I be financially independent? How can I retire early? Okay. That is the goal. And there's a lot of people who focus in on the FIRE movement and teach the FIRE method. And it's mainly based around stocks, which is not my passion, but let's understand sort of what they teach within the FIRE movement. It's called the 4% rule. And what this is, it's basically a formula to reverse engineer your stock goals. meaning what does my stock balance have to be so that I can retire, so that I can be financially independent or retire early. This is a mathematician came up with this, and he basically said that if you take all of your stock portfolio and you withdraw 4% a year, well, then that's going to always be fine because there's ebbs and flows in the stock market. It's going to go up, it's going to go down. But on average, if you pull out 4%, some years it's going to be higher and some it's going to be lower. But 4% is sort of a safe bet to withdraw from that, right? So that is the 4% rule. So to reverse engineer whether how much money you need to make, you take your monthly expenses. So whatever you're paying in your transportation and your credit card and food and entertainment, you add all that up and you multiply that by 12. So the big number, the way to figure out the 4% rule is add all that up and get your annual expenses. And then once you do that, then you have to multiply that by 25. Okay, so your annual expenses by 25 will give you that stock portfolio balance goal. And this is really just the number. The annual expenses that you have times 25. So for example, if your monthly expenses are $5,000 a month, that includes everything you spend is $5,000 a month. Well, multiply that by 12, that's $60,000 a year, which, the average salary in the United States is $52,000. So this is a pretty good life. If you're spending $5,000 a year, you're spending more money than the average American makes. So yeah, if this is good, if this is your budget, $60,000 a year, that's what you're spending each year. So you multiply that by 25. If you have a $1.5 million stock portfolio, well, you get to retire early. And I think this is pretty absurd. Like, yeah, you have to be a millionaire to retire, right? $1.5 million. And the way the math works, well, obviously, take that 1.5 million stock portfolio, withdraw 4% of that balance every single year. 4% of that balance is $60,000. We already know your expenses are $60,000. So this is the FIRE method. This is how they calculate how much you have to have in retirement in order to retire early or be financially independent. I wanted to hack this through real estate. Like, there's got to be a better way through real estate than being a millionaire to save this up. But first, to understand the way I came up with it, let's dig a little deeper within these numbers. Like 60,000 is really broad for annual expenses. 5,000 is also a little broad per month. So let's go down to an individual bill and walk through that. So here we go. The 4% rule with one bill. Focus on just one bill. Let's assume you have a $150 internet phone bill combination from your company. Multiply that by 12. That's $1,800 a month. I know that this bill I can't pay in full. I can't pay in bulk. I can't get rid of it. I'm always going to need internet access. I'm not going to go to the library and watch my Netflix reality TV shows that I'm addicted to. This is a $150 bill that I'm always going to have to pay, and it costs me $1,800 a year. Multiply that by 25. That's $45,000. And that is also mind-boggling that, wow, for me to retire, $45,000, I have to save up for $45,000 so that I can withdraw 4% of that just to pay for one bill, one of my bills that I can't get rid of, right? $45,000 needed in stock portfolio to just pay one bill. But that is the 4% rule. That's the FIRE method. And that's what everyone does in the FIRE method. They live and breathe by this. It's math. I love, I believe in math. I get it. I just feel like this is sort of unachievable. It's just sort of takes the wind out of your sails if you really narrow it down, and you're not really going to be the most motivated person because you're like, that day is never going to come. So let's make some assumptions about this, right? What else is wrong with this? And what other ways to look at this? Well, this is assuming that my internet and my phone bill doesn't go up from $150 to $175 in the future, or $200 or $300, right? It's just assuming that, wow, if my expenses are $60,000 today, I don't know if they're going to be $60,000 in the future. So there might be some sort of tightness here where my living style decreases each year in retirement, especially if my bills go up and my portfolio isn't big enough to cover it, right? So that's a problem. That's a red flag with the 4% rule and stocks investing. Now let's assume that your this also assumes your living expenses stay the same. Inflation. Let's imagine, sure, maybe the bill doesn't stay the same, but maybe my rent goes up, or maybe my healthcare bill increases because I'm getting older in age, or maybe my gasoline goes up, and all these bills, like everything goes up in price, right? But this is assuming that your living expenses are not going to go up in price and that they're fixed. And I think that's a poor assumption to make in retirement. And this is, again, inflation doesn't wreak havoc on your retirement plans. Like, of course it is. These are all going to be related. Everything gets more expensive as we go. That's just the fact of life. So what you're going to have to do is basically really cut back on your retirement plans. And maybe you don't go as many vacations, or maybe you move into a smaller place or lower cost of living city. You really have to adjust your lifestyle, probably in retirement, to maybe one that you're not used to. Like you're lowering your standard of living and maybe your number of vacations with this 4% rule. Or you're going to have to continue working in supplemental income and a part-time job, right? So you're not really retiring early in many ways. All right. So let's talk house fire. Why is the house fire example better? And why do I preach this? And why am I teaching this in this course? Because again, if you take this approach, I really think that you'll find it'll make decisions on buying a property easier. It's just going to make it crystal clear. It's a yes, no, or decision as well. So let's walk through this. We're going to focus on that same bill that we just walked through, $150 phone and internet bill. Okay, we probably all have this. Mine might be bigger because I got 3 kids sharing my phone bill as well, and I've got unlimited data for work and things like that. But $150, I'm sure you got a $150 bill somewhere in your life. Now, here's the real estate way. Let's not save up $45,000. Let's take half of this, $22,500. This, already feel a weight off my shoulder. This is great. Oh, I can see a day where I save up for $22,500, right? Save up my bonuses, maybe work some overtime, cut out a little bit of entertainment and subscriptions for a little bit, and maybe don't eat out as much. There is a day where I can visualize $22,500 in my checking account, right? $45,000, that seems far, far away. Now, let's go buy a $100,000 house with this money. $20,000 down payment, which is 20%. Most investment properties are going to want 20% down payment. And if you're, that's really good. If you're house hacking, you could put down lower, but that's another class. But $20,000 down payment, let's just assume that's just typically the going rate. And you're going to have some closing costs and repairs, maybe inspection and whatever. So you're going to need $2,500 in closing costs. That just goes away. But $20,000 is your down payment. What do you think we can do with this? Well, if you find a house that has rental income for $1,000 and you've got a mortgage, $80,000 mortgage, probably about $550 a month, your landlord expenses, this is assuming 5% of that rental income is vacancies. A portion of those expenses are repairs, CapEx expenditures, turnover, things like that. Typically it's going to be about 30% of your take home is going to have to just go to landlord expenses. So you're $850 all in here, right? Well, of course, the cash flow, if we look at the cash flow here, $150 a month is the same amount as your phone and internet bill, $150 a month. We accomplished the same goal with half the money, right? The stock goal is $45,000 to pull out $150 a month or $1,800 a year. This is the same achievement. That's $150 a month for half that price. And I know you're screaming at the screen right now and be like, oh, this is absurd. $100,000 homes don't exist. And I'm telling you, they do. Okay? They do. They might not exist on your street or in your block, maybe not even in your city, but they exist. And you can buy these and make them very passive with all software and remote management. It's a thing. I have tenants I've never met that are far away because they applied online, they got approved online, they pay their bills online, their repairs are reported through the portal online. That sends an email to the vendors, and the vendors set up a scheduler. I'm not even involved. It's very passive, and it's far away. And so as I record this, I just sold 50 doors. I just sold them for an average price of $75,000 each one. I bought them 2.5 years ago for the average price of $35,000. Okay. And this was 1 hour south of Atlanta. And they all came with tenants in it. They were paying about between $450 and $650 in rent. And when I sold it, they were paying between $650 and $750 in rent. And so that's 100 transactions right there that's happened in the last 2.5 years that were all $100,000 1 hour from Atlanta. Now I've got friends and colleagues and other investors that I've helped and worked with that are buying in Memphis, Tennessee, that are maybe not in your city and they don't live in that city. Okay. Remote investing is a thing. And I promise you $100,000 properties exist. So don't just dismiss this because you think $100,000 houses are absurd. Every single day, homes and duplexes for under $100,000 are flipping and selling all the time. Okay. So with that rant out of the way, let's go back to the House F.I.R.E example. You see now that I've given a job to this house. This house is going to pay for my phone bill, right? That is an easy way to approach real estate because if you find the bills that you do not like, well, let's buy a house that'll pay for it. And then the faster you do that and faster you start doing it, it's just a yes or no box. Does this house pay for this bill? Yes. Okay, let's go ahead and offer and buy it. I don't need to look for another house that pays that same bill. I don't need to look for another house that pays this bill plus some extra thing. And then so you're always looking for more and looking for better and looking for more. I found it like this. I needed $150 cash flow. I found my first house that meets this with my $22,500. The first one that comes along, I'm going to buy, boom. And I can move on to the next one. And I can save up for that next one much faster because now one of my bills has been covered by my property, right? So the clip to save up the next $22,500 is faster because I don't have as many bills in my life. Now we got to talk about some assumptions about House F.I.R.E. We talked about assumptions with the 4% rule, which wasn't, that positive, but thankfully our assumptions with the House F.I.R.E. example are positive, right? Because you're not depleting your portfolio balance to pay your bills. Like you are in the 4% rule, you're withdrawing $60,000 a year to pay your internet bill. And I know it's going to balance and float, and you'll always have that $60,000 to withdraw based on the math that, this portfolio size with all its up and down is just going to be evergreen, sort of balanced this way. But you are pulling money out. You are depleting it in many ways. It earns $60,000 and then you pull it out. It earns 60. You're constantly pulling your money out. And so that's not happening with real estate, right? With House F.I.R.E, you're not pulling money out of the house at all. It's the house is providing cash flow that's providing you to pay your bills. So your $22,500 that you've spent to buy this house, that's not getting depleted. It's actually doing quite the opposite. That $20,000 in equity will appreciate by 3.5% a year because housing historically, like we're assuming that historically the 4% rule, the stock market will go up 4% every year. So if you withdraw 4% every year, you're going to be fine. Well, we can take that same data. In the last 30 years, real estate's not as great. Okay. It's roughly 3.5% per year. Okay. But I'll tell you why it's greater. Right? Doesn't it feel that great? Because it's not that your equity is appreciating 3.5% a year. Like if I put $20,000 in stocks and it goes up 4%, in the worst years, typically it goes up about 7 or 8%, but ups and downs, 4%, you're a very safe bet. That's not what it's appreciating in real estate because it's leveraged appreciation. I'm actually, I have an asset that's $100,000 and that $100,000 is appreciating by 3.5%. That becomes a much bigger number than what you'd get in the stock market, right? Because I've leveraged it. I have a $100,000 asset that I bought for $20,000 instead of a $20,000 asset of stocks that I bought for $20,000. So that's huge. That's a huge, huge win. We're also going to assume that there's rental income expected to increase each year. No one expects the rent to go down. It doesn't really, stay the same. You should, let's just assume you bump it $25, right? Well, all of a sudden, if you just raise it $25 and maybe your expenses went up $50 and you raise it $75, but you're profiting an extra $25. I mean, this is what the deli does, right? The sandwich meat goes up in price. They don't just eat it because they own a sandwich shop they raise the price of the sandwich. You got to do the same thing for your real estate. So let's just assume it goes up 25 bucks in next year. Well, now you're making $175 in cash flow. $150 goes to your phone and internet. Now you get an extra $25 that, wow, I can apply this somewhere else. Or if your phone bill went up from $150 to $175, you're covered for that lifestyle inflation kind of thing, right? Now you have $175. My phone bill and internet bill went up 75. I'm fine. I'm not living a scaled down life in retirement. Now your mortgage balance is fixed and long-term. Excellent inflation hedge. Now, what does this mean? What is an inflation hedge? Let me tell you. All right, this is a good example of the way to think about this. So inflation is cost of all goods goes up over time. It just happens. That's why Coca-Cola used to be a nickel and now it's $4 for a can. Okay. So this is the way to look at this. Imagine you found $1. You pull into the gas station, fill up your car with gas, and you found $1 on the ground. You have two options. You can take that dollar, go in and buy a Snickers bar today, or you're prudent and you want to retire early. So you take that dollar and you mail it in to your mortgage company to pay off $1 of your principal, because that's the smart thing to do, right? It's let me focus on my finances. Let me pay off that mortgage early. Okay. Now, let's assume you left that dollar there on the ground and you just drove it and you're like, whatever, someone else can have it. I don't need it because I'm a real estate investor and I'm living large, right? Whatever your reasoning might be. Okay. Now let's fast forward in the future. No one has gasoline cars. So you come up with your electric car. You come back to that electric charge station. The gas station is now electric charge station. You pull in and you realize, oh, that dollar is still on the ground. You pick it up, you're like, this is the universe telling me I need to spend this dollar. Okay. And you have the same two options. Do I take this dollar, go in and buy a Snickers bar? And you say, yeah, fine, I will. I'll treat myself. Okay. So you go in and surprise, 15 years in the future, that Snickers bar is $4. You can't afford it anymore. You can afford a quarter of that Snickers bar. So what do? Well, I guess I'll mail it in to my mortgage company because I still get a full dollar's worth of value off my mortgage in the future. So that is fighting inflation, right? That's why that mortgage is going to get cheaper and cheaper in the future. It's going to feel like it gets cheaper and cheaper because you can still, it stays the same price for 30 years where everything else is getting more expensive. So I say this all the time. It's much better to spend your money on Snickers and anything today than ever trying to pay off your mortgage early. Let that seep in. Take advantage of that, because if you're paying it off early, you lose that benefit. That's like anyone you know who bought a property 25 years ago, like your parents or grandparents. Like you're just mind boggled. Like, what? Your mortgage payment's only $1,000 a month? I promise you, 25 years ago, $1,000 a month was a lot, and they probably felt like they're stretching and they were overpaying for it. But all they did was have patience, and they just wait. Like, you'll look like a smart genius real estate if you just wait it out, right? That mortgage payment's going to stay $1,000 for 25 years. Everything else gets more expensive, and you're going to be the only person paying $1,000. You're going to look like a genius, and your rent is going to be going up, but your mortgage payment stays the same. So this is what I mean by an inflation hedge, and why having one mortgage is great, but imagine having 5 mortgages, right? You get this benefit 5 times. Never pay off your mortgage. Spread it around. This is what you want to do, all right? So that is a House F.I.R.E. The House F.I.R.E. benefit is this excellent inflation hedge. Now, let's talk about that your mortgage will eventually be paid off as well. So we're assuming we've got an $80,000 mortgage in this one property. It costs $550 a month. Well, we just wait it out. Eventually that mortgage is paid off. And then I've got an extra $550 that I can put to whatever I want in retirement. This is why I mean, House F.I.R.E, you're living larger and larger in retirement each year because your mortgage gets paid down, the rent goes up, inflation is your benefit, and your disposable income just keeps growing and growing and growing. Yep, House F.I.R.E only method, living larger and larger in retirement. Okay, let's keep talking a little bit more about how this $22,500 that you spent, what it looks like in the future. Okay, well, if we focus on 10-year horizons. Let's do 3 different 10-year horizons. This is a get-rich-slow scheme, but you could theoretically retire in 10 years, which is buying one property if these numbers work for you. So I just want to show you this one example of $22,500. In 10 years' time, that $100,000 house with 3.5% bumps, remember it's compounding. So the first year will be $103,500. Then you get 3.5% on 103,500, right? So it keeps compounding. Well, in 10 years' time, that house that you bought for $100,000 is $141,000. And you're going to have $66,059 in equity. So you put $20,000 into this, it's already tripled in 3 years of equity. So way I got this math, $141,000 is what 3.5% bumps look like on a $100,000 property. I subtracted out $80,000 original mortgage. And in the first 10 years, you probably paid off $5,000 of mortgage with your mortgage payment. So I added back in $5,000, and that's where I got the $66,000 in equity. You're not going to get that in stocks, right? You're not going to be able to triple it in 10 years like this. Like this is amazing, while also it's paying your bill, right? What does the cash flow look like in 10 years? Well, if you just do $25 rental bumps, and I promise you, very rarely is it just $25. Most people do $50 or $100 per bump, but I'm trying to be very conservative with my numbers here and not just paint the rosiest of pictures. I want to be, sure, maybe your expenses went up $75 as a landlord, but so you charge $100. But whatever, you should try to push $25 extra each year. If you just do that, your rental income goes from $1,000 a month to $1,225. You still have your property taxes and your mortgage and insurance and some repairs and some vacancies, but your cash flow went from $150 to $375. Hopefully your phone internet bill doesn't go up that much. I would imagine at this point, you could probably pay your gas bill or your, electric bill at the same time. Like this house now is covering 2 bills for you instead of just one. Now, that's just 10 years in the future. Of course, time is our friend here. Let's look at 20 years time, right? Your house is now $198,000. You've turned $20,000 into $133,000 of equity. If you sold that house, you got to pay off that original $80,000 mortgage, but really it's probably $65,000 now because you have 20 years of mortgage payments. So there you go. That's how I get that price. $198,000 minus the $65,000 mortgage that you owe. You're going to be at $133,000 of equity. It's quite amazing. You just got to buy real estate and wait. Don't wait to buy real estate. Cash flow, 20 years time. Here you go. It's now $1,475. This is the same $25 bumps. Your cash flow is now $925 a month. That is huge. That is huge. You could probably pay for 4 or 5 bills, right? That's why I'm saying it only takes 4 properties to really change your life if you look at it this way and just wait it out. So try to get 4 properties as soon as possible and just wait it out. 30 years time, this is where you look like a genius no matter what you do. Your house now is worth $280,000, almost tripled in price from the $100,000 purchase price 30 years ago. You've got $280,000 of equity. You could sell that and spend it however you want, or I wouldn't. Maybe do a cash out refi, so at least it's tax free and get the money out. But your cash flow is now $1,425, and the reason that's so big is that you no longer have a mortgage payment, right? And so that's beauty. Going back to my mortgage example, I would not have a paid off property. I would want to go do a cash out refi. So I get that same inflation hedge benefit again and keep the property, pull all the equity out, and that's tax free for you. So that's the way I would look at it. This is obviously a wonderful way to buy real estate and just give each house a job and go from there. So what's your goal here? Give each house a job is a great way to overcome analysis paralysis, which I think is going to be a huge problem for many new investors. And if you just sort of approach it like this, it's going to make your life so much easier for sure. And I want you to look at examples here. All right, let's assume you've got a car note that's $300. Okay, you've got, let's say you bought a Tesla. It was $50,000, Tesla 3. You could go take that money and give it to the richest person in the world, Elon Musk, and say, here's my $50,000 that I've saved up. I worked every time I need a car. Give me my Tesla Model 3. Now, instead, what am I going to say? Take that $50,000, go buy a house. Maybe it's a $200,000 house that cash flows $300,000, or dollars a month that pays for your car note. And it's a 7-year car note. Right now, you keep your $50,000. You're not giving it to the richest person in the world. You keep it for yourself, and it appreciates at 3.5% per year, not the $50,000, the $200,000 is going to appreciate, right? And in 7 years, that car note's paid off. That car is yours. That $50,000 is yours. It's turned into $150,000. That cash flow that was paying $300 a month is now, 7 years in the future, probably $450 a month. And you don't have a place to put it because your car note's paid off. So that $450 is like, where do I put this? And you're like, I guess it'll go to my vacation fund. I guess it'll go to my student loans. I guess I'll put it somewhere else because I need to earmark it. I need to give this house a job. He completed the job of paying for my car note. Now I got to give him another job, right? So yeah, maybe it's put it towards the student loan. And now maybe you need 2 properties for the student loan instead of just 1 because that's not enough. But at least I'm like, as soon as I find a property, what's the second property that I can buy now that's going to pay off the student loan? Because I've got $450 from this house that used to be paying my Tesla. Now I want to apply it to the student loan. Same with the vacation budget. Maybe you're going to say, I want this property, all my bills are covered. So why don't I now create houses to make up bills? Like maybe now I want 2 vacation budgets or a more expensive vacation budget. And it's going to be faster and faster to buy properties and save for it, like I said earlier, because you're paying off these bills. This is how you approach the House F.I.R.E goal. This is just yes or no decisions. Can I buy this property? Yes. Well, I'm really trying to solve this one bill in my life. Okay, does it? Yes, buy it, because there's always going to be more properties. And there might be a better property. But right now, today, when you're looking, this is the best we can buy. Make it, buy it, and let's start saving and move on to the next one. That is how you do the House F.I.R.E method here. All right, so your homework goal, all right? You did the last homework goal. It gives you a purpose. It gives you the whys. It gives you a direction. Along the same way, I want you to figure out your monthly expenses. So there's a sheet for you to download that you'll want you to fill it out. Take your time, make it accurate. This only benefits you, right? Garbage in, garbage out. But if you put real numbers in, it's going to be real numbers out. And just to have this peace of mind and this clarity is going to be beautiful for you. So figure out your monthly expenses and what bill do you want to tackle with your next purchase. If you can figure these 2 things out, your life is going to be so set. It's just going to be, it's so crystal clear. We want to do this. I need to do this next. This house is going to solve this bill that I hate in my life. And it's all got a purpose. It's all very easy. It's all yes, no decisions. That's what I want for you. And I take all the time you need to do it. You don't want to rush through this. It's an exercise worth doing. And I've got a spreadsheet for you to do it. So do it. And you're going to have the blueprint. You're going to have the vision. And then we can come back and actually start talking real estate, right? We're going to talk about how we can use House F.I.R.E, how we can use your whys and your SMART goals, put it all together and actually start looking at deals. So great second class. Dig in, and I'll see you in the next one.